Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone, and welcome to our second lesson. In this lesson, we're going to look at the alphabet and the calendar. So, under the alphabet, we are going to look at the characters. We're going to look at consonants, vowels, accents, because French is a different language, especially from English. We have small decorations that are on top of certain letters, and these decorations, they're called accents. They change the meaning, they sometimes change the pronunciation. So we're going to be giving examples of the accents, and we will look at elision, types of elision. Then under the calendar, we'll look at the days of the week, months of the year, seasons, and then lastly, I will leave you with a small exercise to see if you're not on the same page. So if you're looking at the screen, l'alphabet, which is the alphabet in what? In French. L'alphabet is the alphabet in French. So the alphabet in French, it has 26 characters, just like the English one. Same orthograph, meaning to say they are written exactly the same way, but the difference now is on pronunciation. So pronunciation is key, especially when I'm pronouncing French, because there's a tendency when you have first language, mostly English, you tend to pronounce certain words in what? In English. But in French, you need to learn the alphabet itself, how to pronounce it correctly, so that you'll be able to pronounce certain words in what? In French. So we are going to do the alphabet together. I'll take you through the alphabet slowly so that you can also practice. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So the transcription that's written in between brackets, this is exactly how you pronounce it. So this is there to facilitate what? The work, to make it easy so that it will be easy to pronounce. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So these are the 26 what? Characters. And how to correctly say them in French. So if you remember, I said the French alphabet, it is 26 characters. Among the 26 characters, we have what we call consonants. So it is pivotal to know what consonants are, because in the lessons that are to come, or the next lessons, we'll be making reference to things like consonants. For example, I might be explaining something and I just say, if the last letter is a consonant, usually it's not pronounced. So for you to understand what I will be talking about, you actually need to understand what are consonants. So consonants, these are sounds created by blocking or hindering the passage of air through the mouth in some way. If you compare pe, for which you briefly close your lips before forcing the air through. Pe, to R, for which your mouth remains open. R. So if you're to look at the difference, what in how we say out the two different letters, that's the difference between what? A consonant and a vowel. So below you can see that the characteristics of a consonant sound. They are produced by the vibrating vocal cords, pronounced with some obstruction of the throat, tongue, or lips. In this case, when you're looking at pe, there was an obstruction of what? Of the lips. And if you hold the throat, if you pronounce pe, you can see that there's what? There's actually a vibration on the vocal cords and cannot be a syllable on its own. So in French, there are 20 consonants. So there are 20 consonants, meaning to say letters that we have those characteristics that I mentioned above. Then we move on to what? Les voyelles, which are vowels. The voyelles, which are vowels. In English, we say that vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. So I just read the vowels in French. It's A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. So if you're following from the start, when we're looking at the alphabet, I said Y is Y. So if you're saying Y in French, you have to say Y. So A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. And from the characteristics that we looked at when we're looking at consonants, we said that there's a vibration or there's an obstruction of the lips, sometimes the tongue or throat. But when we're saying A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes what? Y, we don't have that vibration. So that's why we have those characteristics of a vowel sound. They're produced by vibrating vocal cords. For example, if you say Y, there's that what? There's that vibration. Pronounced with no obstruction of the throat, tongue, or lips. O, E, A. There's no obstruction of the throat, the tongue, or the lips. Can be a syllable on its own. And in French, we have six what? We have six vowels. We move on to accents. Les accents. While French has the same alphabet as English, in terms of orthograph, how it's written, some French letters have little decorations that can make them look and sound different. English loves to borrow words from French and other languages, but the accents are optional. You can write naive with those two dots on top of I, or you can say naive, the normal I. It makes no difference. Even in terms of pronunciation, there's no difference. In French, however, accents are essential. They are for a reason, so you must include them in writing. So they're not just there for pronunciation, even when you're writing. Because sometimes if you leave out an accent, it means a completely different thing. Examples. There are 5 types of accents in the French language. We have the first one, l'accent aigu, the acute one. Is, for example, that E between brackets, often used at the beginning of words that start that start with an S in the Latin language. For example, if you say une école, it means a school. It means in English it starts with a S. Une école is a school. Un état, un état, that's a state. So in the next lesson, we'll explain the difference between that un or un, because if you look at they're called indefinite articles, they will be explained they'll be explained later in detail. So words in French, they have gender. They're either masculine or they're feminine. So if you see un, for example, une, it means the word that follows, meaning to say the noun itself is feminine. So une école, it means the school. It means the school is what? Feminine. Un état, now we are saying ah. The N is now silent, and the E is the silent E that gives sound to the consonant. Because if you say ah, it means we don't pronounce the N. An état, which is a state, but the silent E now gives sound to the consonant, and it makes us un, meaning to say now we are pronouncing the N. Then the second one, we have what we call the l'accent grave. L'accent grave is portrayed between brackets. It often distinguishes between two words or may indicate a different pronunciation. Like what I said previously, I said they're not just decorations and they don't only alter the pronunciation. Sometimes two words that actually look the same, they mean different things. So you have to always include the accent so that you keep what? The meaning. For example, la versus la. In English, it translates to the, which is a definite article, and la, which is a demonstrative adjective, there. We need to say we're talking about over there. So la and la, the difference is that accent which is on top of a. And for someone who's learning French for the first time, it sounds the same, it looks the same. They might choose to just ignore the accent, but from the translation now you see that it changes the meaning. Or très, which means very, meaning to say, for example, if you want to say I'm very okay or I'm very well, you say je vais très bien, je vais très bien. So très, it means it gives a different sound for the e, which is the e. Then we have what we call l'accent circumflex. It's more like a small triangle on top of those letters. The letters between what? Letters between brackets. Often means S followed that letter in the Latin, or it denotes variations in pronunciation. For example, if you say hôpital, that's French, and it translates to hospital. So it means that O is followed in what? Is followed by an S in English. Hôpital, which is hospital. Or sur, or sur. So sur, it means on, and sur, it means sure. So that now it also gives variations in what? In pronunciation, in that case, the second case. Then we have what we call l'accent cédille. La cédille, which is a C with the tail. A C, a normal C with a tail. Used under the letter C to indicate a soft S sound and is only used in front of A, O, and U, meaning to say those are the only vowels that follow the C with the tail. It changes the hard C. I'm sure we've already looked at greetings. We say comment allez-vous, meaning to say we're saying how are you. So the CO, the normal C, it's ko. But if you want to respond to comment allez-vous, if you want to say I'm okay, you can say ça va. And the C now with the tail, it changes that C to sa. So it changes the hard C, which is a K sound like comment, into a C, into a soft C with an S sound. For example, if you say la leçon, not la leçon, because the moment you remove that accent, we go back to the hard S. Hard C, sorry, we go back to the hard C, and it's now pronounced as la leçon, but with the accent, it changes to la leçon, which is a lesson, or ça, which is that. You want to say, donne-moi ça, meaning to say, give me that. Ça is what? That. Then the last one is l'accent tréma. L'accent tréma is those two dots. For example, the example that I gave you when we're talking about accents that don't change the pronunciation in English. We're talking about naive. It had those two dots. It's called l'accent tréma in what? In French. It indicates that the consecutive vowels should be pronounced separately. It indicates that the consecutive vowels, meaning to say vowels that follow each other. Usually, sometimes the other vowel is not pronounced, but when they are consecutive and the other one is that l'accent tréma, it means they are pronounced separately. For example, if you say le maïs, meaning to say the R and the E, they are pronounced differently. And le maïs translates to corn. We move on to what we call elision. Elision. So an elision is a type of contraction that occurs when two words are combined. One or more letters are dropped and replaced with an apostrophe. And this is not unique to just French. It's also there in English, but just in English, it indicates informality. So in English, elisions like I am, can't are optional because you can literally say I am or I cannot. They are also optional and they indicate what? Informality. In French, however, written elisions are required, regardless of the register you're speaking or writing in. Meaning to say, in French, they are mandatory, despite the fact that is it a formal or informal conversation. For example, there are four main groups of written French elisions or elision. The first one is with definite articles, les and la. This is also another topic that we'll look at later, where we're looking at articles. And articles are not just unique to French. We also have them in English. we have a and n. These are indefinite article. Then le and la, they translate to the, which is a definite article. When we're talking about something that's definite, we use the in English, which is a definite article. So when we say definite articles, it literally means the. So le and la lead or allied with nouns that begin with a vowel, or an ashmue. An ashmue is just a silent H. Also another thing that we'll look at later, because there's an H that's usually which from words that were borrowed from Latin that is not pronounced in French. For example, you have le. Le, it shows that whatever we are talking about is masculine. If you remember, I mentioned the idea that in French, words of gender, they're either masculine or they're feminine. So if you say le animal, so the le, the E, the last A, and the A, there's a vowel clash. So we substitute the first vowel with an apostrophe and it changes to l'animal. So this is what we call elision or elision, where we substitute the first vowel with an apostrophe. Then la école. There are also two vowels that are what? Contracting. Then it changes to l'école. The A is then substituted by an apostrophe. That's the process we call elision or elision. Number two, we have direct object pronouns. Le and la contract with verbs that begin with a vowel or the same silent H, or an adverbial pronoun Y, an adverbial pronoun Y. For example, if you say il a obey. Il a obey, it changes to il l'obey. Il l'obey, meaning to say the same process. We maintain the pronoun which is il, but the la and the o, they contract. So we remove the first a and substitute it with the apostrophe and it becomes l'obey. Other two letter words that end, the number three is other two letter words that end in the meaning to say in a silent E. These lead or allied when followed by a vowel, ashmue, or an adverbial pronoun. For example, if you want to say meaning to say it's, so it's normally ce plus est, meaning to say it is or it's. So the first E is silent, so it is substituted by an apostrophe. Je l'aime or j'aime, meaning to say I love something. J'aime, meaning to say I love. There are two vowels that are following each other. So the first one is substituted by an apostrophe and changes to j'aime. Elision figée, fixed elision. Aujourd'hui, for example, the word aujourd'hui, today, it means today. The contraction of O plus je plus de plus ui from the 12th century. This is what is a fixed elision. Then d'accord, if you want to say okay, you say d'accord, which is D apostrophe, then A double C, double C O R D. D'accord. This is also another fixed elision. So this is basically everything on the alphabet. Things that you might require, things that you might need to know so that they help you pronounce words correctly in French. Then we'll move on to the second part of the lesson, which is le calendrier, which is the calendar. Le calendrier. So under the calendar, like I said in the beginning, we're going to look at les jours de la semaine, which is the days of the week. We'll look at le mois de l'année, months of the year, and les saisons, which are seasons. So first and foremost, we're going to look at what? Les jours de la semaine, days of the week. So if you remember when I mentioned in passing the idea of articles, they also change, not just in terms of gender, they also change in terms of number. Because now we're talking about days, which is the word jour. Days, now they're plural. So the le now is yes to agree with the number of the noun that we are talking about. De la, it means of the. Because I said la, it's a definite article which translates to the. So it's literally the days of the week. days of the week. So les jours, it means days, and semaine, it means week. One of the characteristics, I'll just mention it in passing because someone might be asking questions. Why is there the days of the week in French, but in the translation it's just days of the week? So this is also one of the characteristics of definite articles where it's mandatory in French, but sometimes omitted in English. Because in English we just say days of the week. We don't necessarily need to say the days of the week. So lundi, it's Monday because so lundi, Monday, mardi, Tuesday, mercredi, Wednesday, jeudi, Thursday, vendredi, Friday, samedi, Saturday, dimanche, Sunday. So lundi, which is Monday, mardi, French R, mardi, Tuesday, mercredi, Wednesday, jeudi, Thursday, vendredi, Friday, samedi, Saturday, and dimanche, which is Sunday. Then we move on to explanations of a few things in relation to days of the week. So the French week starts on Monday. That's the first day of the what? Of the week. French days of the week are not capitalized because, for example, in English, if you want to say it was a Monday, it's mandatory to put a capital letter M on the word Monday. But in French, you can say c'était lundi, and c'était lundi, and the L remains what? Lowercase. So French days of the week are not capitalized unless it's the beginning of a sentence. Les jours de la semaine, I said it means days of the week, all 7 of them. Then les jours de semaine, we need to say jours ouvrables, aka, or also known as jours ouvrables. These are weekdays. We need to say Monday to Friday, the days that we work. We can also call them les jours de semaine. Then the weekend, which is a borrowed word from English, it just means weekend. It's just the same autograph but a different pronunciation. Then we move on to le mois de l'année. Le mois de l'année, so it's the same thing. Le, it means months are plural. De, l'année is that elision. Normally there's supposed to be a vowel. So there was a vowel that was substituted by an apostrophe, a process that we called what? Elision. So this is the reason why we're looking at what? Things like accents, things like elision, so that when you come across, for example, that word l'année, now you understand where it's coming from. So le mois de l'année, it means months of the year. So it's the same 12 months with janvier, which is January, février, February, March, April, May, Juin, June, Juillet, July, Août, August, September, October, November, December. So janvier, février, mars, avril, mai, juin, juillet, août, septembre, octobre, novembre, December. Literally January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. So French months are also not capitalized, meaning to say if it's in the middle of the sentence, you just write them in the lowercase. To talk about something that happened in a certain month, we use the preposition en. For example, if you want to say, my birthday is in September, you say, mon anniversaire est en septembre. So the en is used when you want to talk about something that happens or that happened in a certain month. Nous allons voyager en avril. Nous allons voyager en avril. It means we are going to travel in April. Okay, so nous allons voyager en avril. It means we are going to travel in April. Mon anniversaire est en septembre. So all these things are happening in a certain month. Then we use the preposition en, meaning to say in. Then les saisons. Les saisons, we say these are seasons. Les saisons, seasons, we have 4 seasons. Été, which is summer. Automne, which is autumn or fall. Hiver, which is winter, and le printemps, which is spring. So hiver is an example of that silent H that we mentioned. If you listen carefully to the pronunciation, you see I have said hiver. The H is not pronounced, it's silent. So été, summer, autumn, hiver, winter, and printemps, spring. All French calendar words, days, months, and seasons are masculine. If you remember, I said all words in French, they have a gender. They're either feminine or they're either masculine. So days of the week, months, seasons, they're all masculine. To talk about something that happens in a certain season, we use au for printemps and en for the rest. So if you remember when we said, when you want to talk about something that happened in a certain month, we use en, which is a preposition, but for printemps, we use au, which is au. It's pronounced as o. So by example, which meaning to say, for example, il fait beau au printemps. Il fait beau au printemps. It means the weather is nice in spring, meaning to say we're talking about spring. But if you say je ne voyage jamais en hiver, or je ne voyage jamais en hiver, it means I never travel in winter. So now that we are using, we're talking about something that happened in another month, which is not spring. Then we use the preposition en, which is en, but only for printemps, we use au. So this is our second lesson. In order to see if we're on the same page, there's a small exercise, or there's a small classwork that you need to look at. It's basically to do with mostly the calendar. So you have to try to answer the questions on your own. Try to find keywords, because I know that it's a second lesson, so the French is still, the vocabulary is still limited. But if you look closely, you can see that there are certain things that there are certain words that you can actually focus on, and they might help you to understand what's being said. And since I'm a good person, I had to add also the translations. So, for example, number one, if you say tous les ans, au 1er janvier, nous commençons une nouvelle. So if you have to look closely for someone who doesn't know the language yet, if you talked about année and you said it's a year, so meaning to say, mostly we are talking about the year. We are not sure what exactly about the year. Then premier, it's for people watch, for example, football, the Premier League. It's more like the first. Yeah, like first. Then janvier is January. Then commençons, to commence. If we talk about commence in English, it means to start. So every year, 1st of January, we start a new what? A new year. Then the words now are what? You need just to rearrange. How do you write? How do you say year in what? In French. Like the instruction is saying, l'année, les jours, les saisons. Meaning to say, it was supposed to be days and seasons. Rearrange the letters between brackets to build correct words. So it's just rearranging the words that are between brackets to write something that's correct. Then, le mois de l'année, now we're talking about months. So, bon courage, meaning to say, or bon chance, meaning to say good luck. And merci, thank you very much for your attention. A bientôt. See you soon.